Let me know down below in the comment section, will Harrison Bryant make the roster? Type yes or type no. Coming up here on the Raiders Report today, I'm going to tell you whether or not the tight end makes the Raiders 53-man roster. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And coming up, I'm going to be reacting to an article I saw from Bleacher Report titled, "The Best Player Who Could Still Be Cut from Every NFL Roster in the Offseason." Harrison Bryant was picked for the silver and black, and I'm going to tell you whether or not he is going to make the 53-man roster. So some shows I like to do this where I outline 5 reasons why they will make the team, 5 reasons why they will not make the team. So you're going to see both why he will, why he won't. The reason why Bleacher Report decided to go with this article, and I like doing shows like this. This is actually how we started doing Raiders Report shows when people didn't know who Chat Sports was. ESPN, Bleacher Report, all these publications would release an article, and I would give my reaction to it. So here's the entire article from Bleacher Report. Since the bulk of free agency is over and the 2024 NFL Draft has concluded, rosters around the league will now only get smaller. To start, don't expect a marquee move anytime soon. Teams are allowed to carry 90 players in the summer, so there's not a rush to release someone who's not already on the fringe of the roster. Some of the back-end finagling will happen in May and June, but notable cuts are destined to happen. Some players who started or held an impactful rotation spot in recent years will be looking for a new team in 2024. The choices are subjective, but based on recent performance and changes to a team's depth chart, especially due to recent additions in free agency or the draft. So that's like the only reason why I'm thinking like Harrison Bryant was brought up here, because the Raiders drafted Brock Bowers. They also know they have Michael Mayer to this team. So coming up here, why the Raiders would cut Harrison Bryant. We'll first get into that, and then I'll tell you at the end why they would keep him. I will say this, if they do decide to move on from him, we will make a video around it. If the Raiders make any type of impactful roster move, we will make a video on it. I'll make a video every single day this year, next year. We've put out a video every day on this channel for 3 years. Hell, the moment that Chugs and I stop putting content out, you can unsubscribe. Thing is, I don't think that that's happening anytime soon. Help us get to 170,000 subscribers. Join the Raiders Report family and subscribe. So let's talk here about Harrison Bryant and whether or not he could potentially be released, because, yeah, I find it interesting that Bleacher Report put out this article and mentioned Bryant, considering the fact that the Raiders did sign him to a 1-year, $3.25 million deal, which I believe he has the opportunity to make up to $4 million on that contract. And I had a few people send me this and just be like, Mitch, what do you think? What's your 2 cents on it? Because, let's face it, the Raiders signed him this offseason, but they did draft Brock Bowers, and they do have Michael Mayer. So, like, I can understand why Bleacher Report at least threw this idea out there. In regards to why they decided to feature him, this is what they said. Harrison Bryant signed with the Raiders earlier this offseason, which in a vacuum makes this a head-scratching move. Didn't expect Las Vegas to draft Brock Bowers after landing Michael Mayer last year, though Bryant is a more proven tight end than Zach Gentry, but might not really be in the Raiders' plans anymore. So when you think about the Raiders' plans, right? What if the Raiders' plans were to have Harrison Bryant, Michael Mayer, and the fact that now they drafted Brock Bowers, they're like, crap, I don't know where this extra roster spot is going to be. So, like, to me, the way that the Raiders move on from Bryant, and it's like the most important role, maybe outside of the next one I'm going to bring up, is they got to have confidence in Bowers and Mayer. Like, you got to have so much confidence in those 2 dudes to decide to move on from your 3rd tight end. Now, like, maybe the Raiders decide, is it cheaper? You could save a little bit of money. We'll talk about all that coming up here in a little bit. But, like, to me, the even more glaring reason of why you would decide to move on from Bryant, it's if, like, Zach Gentry or Cole Fotheringham or John Samuel Schnenker decide that they're going to be the real tight end 3 of this team, right? Like, to me, the only name that I think even has the possibility here is Zach Gentry, and that's kind of where we're going with this next one of why the Raiders would decide to cut Harrison Bryant if they did. Can Gentry prove that he can be a reliable tight end 3? Like, if we're talking about it with, you know, the offseason, May, June, July, of training camp, mini camp, mandatory, I don't know, OTA, like all these different things. Gentry goes out there and he starts wowing people, and they're like, oh, crap, this guy's a lot cheaper. Maybe we decide to keep him. If these two things happen, it's really the only way that I can wrap my mind around why the Raiders would decide to do it. And coming up here on the show, I still got 3 more reasons of why the Raiders could, if they do, decide to move on from Harrison Bryant. Before I get into that, though, huge shout out to our sponsor, Prize Picks. We've had Prize Picks on the Raiders Report now for months, and I'm happy that they're hanging out with us because anytime I can tell you all about something that I enjoy doing, I hope I encourage you to do the same. The Raiders Report is made possible by Prize Picks, and they've got specials for new and returning users alike. All you got to do is just go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and make sure that you use code CLNS for that first-time deposit match up to $100. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with NBA, NHL, and MLB entries today on PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. All you have to do, and it's really simple, is with a little as 4 correct picks. And again, you just got to choose more or less. If you want to see what Jeremy Chuggs' season-long NFL picks are from PrizePicks, they are up on screen. We got more on Dak Prescott passing yards, less FKC on Xavier Worthy and Chris Jones. Give me the more on Brock Bowers, 4.5 receiving touchdowns. And then Josh Jacobs, well, you're no longer a part of the nation, so 7.5 rushing touchdowns. Give me the less on that for him in Green Bay. PrizePicks is simple. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get started now if you haven't already at prizepicks.com/CLNS and get a first-time deposit match of $100. Prizepicks.com/CLNS. Pick more, pick less. It's really that simple. Another way that you could see potentially Bryant move on or get cut this offseason is if he's a bad fit in Getsy's offense, right? Like, if the chemistry's not there with AOC, Gardner, Minshew, if he's just showing that it's just not going to be a good fit in Getsy's offense, because Luke is going to want to use 2 tight ends. And I think even like when you heard Antonio Pierce talk about using 2 tight end sets and how fired up he got about it, people are really underestimating how important the tight end room is going to be for the Silver and Black. Another way, obvious, if he's injured this offseason, if he goes down because it's a 1-year deal, like, yeah, the Raiders are going to have to eat some money in it, but if he suffers a season-ending injury or an injury like, and I hope the Raiders are smart enough, and the reason why I put this in here is because of Brandon Facyson, where Brandon Facyson went down with an injury, and Josh McDaniels lied to us for months saying, like, oh, he'll be all right. We're going to put him on 53, but he doesn't end up playing until like week 12. I hope that the Raiders realize this season every roster spot is unbelievably important. And then the last one is if Bryant asks to be released, which it does happen sometimes, right? Like last season, if you remember O.J. Howard, when the Raiders signed him, we were all like, oh, this guy's going to make the team. He got cut because O.J. asked the Raiders if he could go find somewhere else to play because he wasn't liking the opportunity that he had presented him. And Bryant, he probably looks at it as like, I can at least make a roster on him. A lot of other NFL teams, but then also the Raiders, you probably have one of the best tight end rooms right now in the league. So for him, he might be like, I could be a tight end too somewhere. Could he ask to be released? That's absolutely on the table. Here's the thing, though. Harrison Bryant is not getting cut, and it is an underrated signing who is going to make an impact this season. And coming up here on today's show, I am going to tell you why Bleacher Report is wrong in saying Bryant's going to get cut, because I am like 95% sure that he ends up making this 53-man roster. In fact, the way that I would say is the most likely option that he doesn't make the team is if he asks to be released. Like, that's the most likely option. And after you get done watching the show, if you answered, yeah, they are going to release him, I promise you this, you're going to be like, yeah, they're going to hang on to this guy. First one is the Raiders made him a priority. A lot of times head coaches might not tell you exactly what's on their mind. GMs might not tell you exactly what's on their mind. But I got to give the Raiders a lot of credit this offseason because they have done exactly what they said that they were going to do. And they've also showed you what they want to do based on their actions. And they made him a priority this offseason. Think about what the Raiders did at free agent. You re-sign Andre James. You spend big money on Christian Wilkins. You go out and get Gardner Minshew. And then what did you do? You signed Harrison Bryant. Why? Think about all the things that AP has talked about, all the things AP, Telesco, all these coaches have said about the 2 tight end system and how difficult it makes it for other opposing teams out there. Harrison Bryant will be a part of the equation this season. This I can guarantee you. So right now you're looking at his stats from the last 4 seasons. It's the 4 years that he's been in the NFL. with the Cleveland Browns. My question is, after seeing that he's had 13, 31, 21, and 24 receptions, how many catches will Bryant have this upcoming season if he's on the Las Vegas Raiders? You got Brock Bowers, you got Michael Mayer. What does that mean necessarily for Harrison Bryant? Because you could look at it at a bunch of different ways, like how many targets he's going to get. Because for me, that's what I look at. How many targets do I think a player is going to get? So for me, I look at this number and I go, Harrison Bryant is going to get somewhere around 31 targets. I think he's going to get 17 catches. That's been basically what his catch rate has been his entire career, for 156 yards, 2 touchdowns. And don't get me wrong, a lot of y'all are going to look at that number right there and you're going to be like, Mitch, I thought you said he's going to make an impact. The impact Harrison Bryant is going to make is going to be a lot more from blocking and a lot more of just setting up things for other people, including Mayer and Bowers, that he might not fill up the stat sheet, but for people that watch the game are going to know Bryant is a damn good football player. Next reason is it doesn't make sense money-wise. Like, why am I going to move on from a player if it's going to cost me more money? If the Raiders decide to move on from Harrison Bryant, it costs you somewhere like $2.8 million, and you end up saving a grand total of $372K, right? Like, not a lot of money. He's the 33rd highest paid tight end in the NFL, if that tells you where the Raiders kind of value him. So right now, the Raiders have Harrison Bryant. They also have Michael Mayer, Brock Bowers. But Bryant, still 33rd highest paid tight end in the league, one of the cheaper tight ends in the National Football League. Yeah, he's got the contracts to make up to $4 million. If you're the silver and black, though, at this point, if he hits that incentives, you're happy that he's hitting it, because that means he's having a good year. It could also mean that you might have lost Mayer and Bowers, though. Next thing is that the Raiders are going to keep at least 3 tight ends, and he is going to make that impact. And you're going to keep the 3 tight ends at least, in Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer. And to me, the impact, again, that he's going to be making is he's one of the better run-blocking tight ends, also loves competition. Remember, the Browns, they drafted Bryant. You also had David Njoku, who they took in the first round in 2019. They also signed Austin Hooper, and Bryant found a way to make it onto that field with all that other stuff included. So, like, I know that Getsy wants to run 2 tight end sets, and there's a part of me that goes, well, if AP loves 2 tight end sets as much as he does, and if they're really looking at Brock Bowers as a weapon, which I think that they are, why would you not run an offense? And it's going to happen again. Why, like, when I saw this article, I was like, I got to talk about it, because you are going to see on the field a lot more than what people are even thinking about. Like, we got excited about Michael Gallup. We got excited about Jalen Guyton because they're receivers. I bet you that Harrison Bryant is going to be on the field almost just as much as what Michael Gallup is. And the reason why that I say that is because you're going to have the 2 tight end set. A lot of times people are saying Bowers and Mayer. What happens if it's Bowers out at a receiver in the slot, and then you got your 2 tight ends in Harrison Bryant and then Michael Mayer? Like, that's something that the Raiders are going to want to use. That's something that Luke Getsy has done his entire career, of having a blocking tight end. Harrison Bryant is going to be your blocking tight end. He's a good athlete who can help you in the red zone, and he's going to make an impact this year. Might not be in the stat sheet, but it will be in the win-loss column. That I can guarantee you. The last one is this. AOC and Minshew, why not have that extra safety blanket? I think a lot of times when we talk about young quarterbacks or inexperienced quarterbacks, the position that sometimes gets referred to as that safety blanket is the tight end position. And what if one of the extra reasons why the Raiders decided to draft Brock Bowers is because it's not bad to have an extra safety blanket? Then you get a really, really big athlete here in Bryant who, yeah, still not a receiver. And the Raiders, a lot of people are like, oh, the Raiders have a weak receiver room, but they might have the best tight end room in the National Football League. So when you think about all of those things from top to bottom, I am a big, big believer, whether it's AOC, whether it's Gardner Minshew, they are going to use these tight ends as a safety blanket. And if, God forbid, one of those players goes down in Bowers or in Mayer, you need to have somebody that you can insert in right away, giggity, and he can be a competent, reliable NFL tight end, because this offense is going to use a lot of 2 tight end sets. So in conclusion, Bleacher Report will be wrong for predicting Harrison Bryant gets cut. It's not going to happen. The Raiders got big plans for him, and I think anybody that thinks that he is going to get cut, I can't wait to see what y'all say about him at the end of the season. He's going to make an impact this season, and it's not going to be on the stat sheet. He might put up a few catches here and there. He might find the end zone, but what he's going to add to the overall team is going to really help out the win column. And then You're going to want 3 reliable tight ends in this Luke Getsy offense for all those reasons. Corn dogs, Jackie. No, Harrison Bryant, you're going to be a member here at Las Vegas Raiders, and I was happy I was able to do this show.